You're listening to Cooper Talk.
Welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, and remember, I'm only as hip as my guests. I got to tell you something, people. I go on Facebook a lot. You know, a lot of times I'll put a joke to make people laugh, or I'll wish happy birthday, or I'll promote Cooper Talk. But also, what I do once in a while is I ask questions, like a poll. Like the other day, I wrote, of the four. Okay, now that's the pertinent part. Of the four. I said, of the four, Tiny Dancer, Your Song, Daniel, or Leave On. And of course, someone always has to say Funeral for a Friend or Benny and the Jets. And I just don't get it. It's like, of the four. If you go to a restaurant and the waiter says to you, would you like asparagus or broccoli? You don't say Brussels sprouts. Anyway, we have a great show today. We have a gentleman who's got a busy schedule coming up. He's playing all over. He's playing with the Smithereens. He's playing with his trio. I know he's doing a show down there at Randy Now's Man Cave. And my guest is Marshall Crenshaw. How you doing, Marshall?
Hey, Steve. Good afternoon.
Now, what song is it for you? Of the four, do you like the best? Tiny Dancer, Your Song, Leave On, or Daniel?
I like all of those, actually. I just have to pick one.
Well, no,
of those four. I'll pick Tiny Dancer.
All right, great. So you're busy. I know you're starting with the Smithereens. How did you get involved? Mm-hmm. How did you get involved playing with the Smithereens? Because they're legendary. You're a very legendary songwriter. Everyone knows who you are. How did you hook up with the Smithereens?
Yeah, that's kind of out of left field, I suppose. But I've known them a long time. Like always, I've known them. And then Pat Denizio, of course, left the building on December 2017, I think.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. And even though I was not shocked, but no, I wasn't surprised, but I was shocked, if that makes sense. Which means that it was, like it hit me on some kind of emotional level, for whatever that it's worth. And then about 4, 5, 6 weeks later, they were scheduled to play a show at the Count Basie Theater in Red Bank, New Jersey, on a co-bill with Patti Smythe and Scandal. It was going to be the Smithereens and Patti Smythe and Scandal. But then Pat wasn't going to be able to make it, right? So they turned their part of the show, the second half of the show, into a tribute to Pat. And I really loved the whole evening. Like I said, I was kind of really shook up that he was gone, even though I wasn't surprised. And that night was very memorable, and just a lot of my friends were there, a lot of old friends, and just people that I'm still glad to see are walking around, and then I played and sang with them that night, and I just got a real buzz from it. And then they must have felt good about it too, because I got a call from Dennis about 3-4 weeks later, asking me if I'd do this TV show with them, which I did. And then a little while after that, he said, "Well, we really want to play still, and would you be into helping us out?" And I said, "Sure, I'd love to." Because again, this was real soon after the tribute show, which I just wanted to keep that feeling going from that night, and that's where I am with it still. It's been over a year. About 35 shows I think I've done with them, but it's fun, and it's fun to hang with them. They're nice people, and they got like kind of a family atmosphere at their shows. It's nice, and I like the music too a lot. So I'm just doing it, I'm still doing it.
Now, how did you prepare for it in the beginning? Did you have to go back and learn their whole catalog? Did they give you a set list? Or how does it, because, you're coming from the outside, they have a big body of work. I'm sure they have very diehard fans who want to hear different stuff. How did you go about learning their whole catalog?
Well, you know, at the tribute show, Robin Wilson from the Gin Blossoms was there, and he does shows with them too now. He's like the other guy that does it. But I remember that night that there were a couple people that couldn't make it to the show, so, you know, like they were just asking around who could fill in. And Robin, he knows all of their songs, so like he already knew all of their songs. They would just say, well, do you know this? Can you fill in for this guy? And he would be like, yeah, I know that one. Just, he has an encyclopedic knowledge of it, you know, knows it by memory. But I don't, and I told them, I said, I know, I've seen your shows, and I know that Pat used to just call him out, like there was no set list. He would just say what the next song was going to be. And I said, I can't do that. You're going to have to tell me what songs to learn. You know, because I knew some. I knew like a dozen of their songs, but I didn't know enough to play a show. So, you know, I wound up learning like 30 of them, I think, initially. And I had a hard time with it, actually, because at my age, it's not easy to cram all that new information into my brain within a short span of time. There was even a bit of a awkwardness, you know, with the first 6 or 7 shows, because every now and then I would blank on something. But I don't do that anymore, fortunately. It's been long enough. Although, I take that back because this is a really weird thing that happened the last time I played with them. They started a song, and I sang the wrong song. For about a verse and a half, I was singing the wrong song, and all of a sudden I hear Dennis just like he's banging his drums in this weird way. Mike's playing like a bass solo and going crazy, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? I turned around and Dennis says, you're singing the wrong song. I hated that happened, you know, it was a senior moment.
Now, when you play for them, do you put your own spin on it, or do they want you to sound like Pat? I mean, how does it do it? Because it's something that, you know, like Journey, you know, they have a new singer. Of course, he has to sound like Stephen Perry. But for you, what did they want from you? Because you and Robin sound very different too.
We do, yeah. No, you know, it would be stupid for me to try to sound like anybody else. I can't do it. And they did ask if we could just play their songs, and they were maybe afraid that I was going to try to turn it into like half and half, or like add some of my tunes. And I never wanted to do that, you know. I wanted to take a vacation for myself while I was playing and singing with them. So I was fine with that. But that was it. They just, you know, said, well, we'd like to keep it as a Smithereens thing. And I said, yeah, that works for me for sure.
Now,
that was it.
You're going to be going on tour soon. Now, I know you're going to some shows with the Marshall Crenshaw Trio. And it seems like trios are becoming popular. I just saw Stephen Page. He played with a trio. And Jack Hughes from Wang Chung is playing with a trio. What brings, as an artist like you know, you're a singer-songwriter, you know, you play guitar. How did you get involved that you wanted to do the trio? And what brought you to doing a trio?
Well, you know, when I was starting to work with my brother, and I was coming up with my first songs and all that, and we were, you know, like getting the sound to come to life, I decided then to just have it be a trio, because I just loved you know, the really spare approach really just appealed to me. You know, like if you would, I was really hung up on the Dorsey Brothers shows with Elvis Presley. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but the first TV shows that Elvis Presley was on, it was Tommy and Jimmy Dorsey. And, you know, he comes out and the stage is dark. You just see him in the middle, and you see these guys, but they're like real tight in with him, and they're real close together. And the drummer's on this little riser. It's sick. The image of it really stuck in my mind. It's just these 4 guys against the world, you know. And then the Beatles, the Washington Coliseum. I still love that concert film of theirs, and it's just the 4 of them. it's also minimal, you know. It's just like these little amplifiers and the 4 guys, nothing else on stage, and I love that still, just that kind of simplicity. And so my brother and I, you know, we just got a bass player and off we went.
Now, at what age did you start performing? Did you start very young? Did you know you wanted to be a musician at a young age? And, you know, when did you start?
Well, let me see. I got a guitar when I was a kid and started playing it when I was about 10. And, yeah, eventually there were, you know, like rock bands forming at my junior high school and high school. And I just got right into it immediately as soon as I could. But it was a kind of a thing to do. I mean, I was going to do it regardless, but it just so happened that after the Beatles came along, you know, like everybody wanted to be in a band, and there were like 6 or 7 rock bands at my high school. But I just started as soon as I could start and never stopped.
Now, coming from Detroit, was there influences up there that you gravitated to early in your career?
In Detroit? Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's a hotbed, and it's got an amazing legacy of musicians, you know, and music coming from there. It's a fountainhead of music, right? And so, yeah, I have, you know, a lot of great memories of Detroit radio. Detroit radio was really, like, a big thing, you know. I grew up on it. And it was, you know, top 40 radio when I was a kid. It was really eclectic. You'd hear, you know, just all genres all kind of crammed into the day-to-day playlist. And so I grew up with that. And then FM rock radio, when it first started out, was really, really, really eclectic. You know, it changed away from that pretty quickly, but, you know, it started out, I remember WABX, the FM rock station, was one of the first in the country, and they would play, like, Igor Stravinsky, and they'd play Howlin' Wolf, and they'd play Alice Coltrane, and along with all the rock bands, you know. But anyhow, but Detroit itself, you know, I mean, it's just nuts. I just read a great book called Jazz from Detroit by Mark Stryker, and it's just a great history. There's so many legends that came from there. And then, of course, Motown and the MC5 and the Stooges, all of that, you know. I felt really strongly connected to all that stuff. Jack Scott, Jackie Wilson. Ridiculous, you know. It just goes on and on and on.
So you listen to it. You have this great backyard. Is your band playing in Detroit when you get? I mean, you said there's a lot of high school guys in the band in high schools. But did you guys start playing gigs in Detroit?
Not so much. I mean, yes, but you know, there had been a kind of like an original music scene centered around this place, the Grandy Ballroom. But I was too young for that, you know. I never even went to the Grandy Ballroom, I'm sad to say. There was one time when I was going to go with some friends of mine. They had tickets to go to the Grandy Ballroom the night that the MC5 recorded the Kick Out the Jams album. But I was grounded and couldn't leave my parents' house because I was failing all my classes in high school. So that was it. I never went. But then, you know, when I got a driver's license, the Grandy was gone. But there was a place called the Easttown Theater. But the local scene, by the time I got out and around, got out of high school and stuff, the local scene had really kind of died. There was just nothing left of it. All there was left was bar bands and cover bands. So I did that for a little while. But, you know, there was no opportunity there after about 1969, 70. There were only really, during the first sort of blush of it, you know, there were really only a couple bands that made it out of there. '65, and the Stooges. And then there were others that made records, but they were just kind of marginal, like the Frost and another band called the Third Power. They got a deal with Vanguard Records, and that was just kind of like, I could see it. After a while, I just did the math, and I thought, if I stay here, the odds are like 10 million to 1 against me. But if I leave, then maybe they're like 100,000 to 1 against me. So I left,
And you went to New York?
Well, first I went out west. I went to Los Angeles with this friend of mine, and I just happened to run into this guy one day. I hadn't seen him in a couple of years. And, we used to jam together in high school and stuff. And again, a couple of years had gone by. I hadn't seen him at all. And I just crossed paths with him by chance one day. And I said, well, what happened to you? Where you been, man? And he explained to me that he was living in Los Angeles, playing in a band, and we had a conversation, right? And he wound up telling me that his band maybe needed a guitar player. And I said, when are you going back? And he said, in 3 weeks. And I said, well, I'll go too. And that was it. If I hadn't run into that guy, then I don't know. But anyway, I went out there with him, and then I wound up in a band, but it was a weird band. It was like a country western cover band, and on a really funny touring circuit through Wyoming and Nevada, Colorado, Montana, through the West. Real interesting, but anyway, somehow or another, in the middle of all that, I wound up getting hired for Beatlemania, and so I went to New York and then decided to stay there. I just went out the door and kind of threw myself at the mercy of fate, more or less.
Yeah,
I headed west.
The thing
headed west, but wound up on the East Coast.
Now, the thing about, when you said, you ended up on Beatlemania, I'm sure you auditioned for it, but there must have been a shitload of people auditioning because, musicians all idolize the Beatles, and you got to play Jon Lennon, which, that's pretty cool. That's, awesome. How many people were you up against to get that part? Do you know?
Well, let me see. I sent in an audition tape and a picture of myself from when I was in high school, and it was a profile shot, and I had, hair past my shoulders, and I was wearing wire-rimmed glasses, and, in this picture I do resemble Jon Lennon, and, so then what happened next was, the show was a success on Broadway, and it was also a success on the West Coast, and they were about to start a touring company. So, I don't know, they sent somebody out to Detroit to audition me, because I'd come back home for Christmas, my trip out west, like, by the time Christmas rolled around, there were no more tour dates with that band I was with, so I went back to the Detroit area, and, so I guess it must have been January or so that they sent a guy out to audition me in the Detroit area. He was the music director for the Broadway company, and the guy's name he's still around. The guy's name is Sandy Yagudo, and he was a member of Jay and the Americans in the 60s, and now he's back with them. So Sandy Yagudo was the guy. He came out to the Detroit area and did the audition, and I think it was already decided that they were going to hire me, but they did have an open casting call, and there were maybe a dozen other guys that came in and auditioned, and that was it. Off I went, They sent me a plane ticket. I just gotten married. My owner and I went to New York. That was it, and I've been here ever since.
Now, did it help your stage performance and, say, being on stage all that time, even though you weren't playing your own music? Do you think it helped you grow as a live performer playing Lennon in that play?
Oh, that's debatable, I guess, but yeah, being in front of audiences doing the show, it did make me want to kind of go down that road of mean, I wasn't sure like what path I was going to take. If I was going to try to do behind the scenes stuff, or if I was going to join a band, or like what I was going to do ultimately. But yeah, doing the show, I guess it sort of gave me the bug to be on stage with my own band. I mean, you know, I've been on stage for years by then, you know, in bar bands and bands at school and blah blah blah. But I don't know. I'm not sure if I know the answer to that question.
That's all right. Now, were you writing music at this time too? When did you start writing songs?
Yeah, I started while I was in the show. You know, it had been kind of building up inside of me. Throughout all the traveling I did, I was just sort of like, you know, it was formulating in my mind, I think, and at some point I just kind of spilled everything out that had been building up in my head, and I also just had this real clear idea about the sound, you know, and the style that I wanted to pursue, and all of a sudden there it was. It was just like this really well formulated thing, you know, my sound and my style. It was like, oh, okay, I got it. Here I go, you know. But I started writing. I wrote a bunch of songs a week after I gave my notice in Beatlemania. I'd already written a few songs and recorded them at home. I got really busy once I'd given my notice. I was in Boston, and I had like 4 weeks before I was going to be out on the streets, and so I would write songs in my hotel room every night. Wrote about half the stuff that's on my first album.
Now, was it hard for you to get that first album, the record deal? I mean, how do you go about it? Because you're coming from Beatlemania, you have the songs recorded, but you're still a no-name. How did you go about getting a deal?
Well, it wasn't hard. It was just like people immediately dug what we were doing. And that's everybody, you know, like that's people in the record industry and the, you know, people in show business that I played the stuff for or that heard it. And there was audiences in New York, just right away, boom, you know, instant acceptance. So that was pretty cool, you know. I didn't know that was going to happen, but I mean, the stuff was good, and we were ready, willing, and able to get out there. And yeah, just right away. At one point, I was, you know, like not every label, but there was a lot of interest, you know. I mean, I don't know how many A&R people came out to the shows ultimately, but in the end, there were 2 solid offers, and then a bunch that were maybe about to burst forth, you know. There was a lot of stuff going on. A lot of press right away. Radio play. It was really cool. I loved it.
Now, do you remember the first time you heard one of your songs on the radio?
I don't exactly. Oh, I know. I do remember. Yes. Robert Gordon recorded my song "Someday, Someway," and there was a DJ on W who loved that record, Meg Griffin, and she's still alive and well, still on the radio. She's on XM a lot now, a lot of different channels on XM. But anyway, she was crazy about Robert's record, and she broke that record in New York City, made it a hit on WNEW. And then shortly after that, I made my own single, and she played that too. You know, it was an indie single, just a single. You know, I didn't have an album, and I mean, WNEW was a real. You know, it was pretty like user friendly and audience friendly, but it was, you know, in the corporate rock world mostly. But they played my single, which was really kind of oddball at the time. But yeah, I heard it on her show, and it just was, you know, it floored me really. But I'd already kind of been through it a little bit because I was hearing Robert Gordon's record, and that was just as exciting to me as hearing my own record. Just hearing my song on the radio was exciting, but it was great. You know, it was pretty cool.
Now, when you, like Robert did your song, when you hear it and you wrote it, and then you do it on your own, does it ever get, like, do you take any influence from maybe his performance and try to switch it up? Or how do you go about keeping it all, you know, because it's your song and it's going to have your sound. Yeah. How do you as a performer and writer, how do you balance, you know, when you do it after you've heard it by someone else, even though you've written it?
Yeah, well, number one, I didn't want to record the song, and I got, like, forced to do it by Warner Brothers. They insisted that I do it, and I said, no, I'm not going to do it, and they just, you know, they demanded that I record it. But it was stupid on my part, because the reason I didn't want to do it is because I thought, well, people already know this by Robert Gordon. But I was clueless in that instance, because, you know, his record was only a hit in New York City. And then, you know, it went up the singles charts a little bit, but I think it got to like number 70 or something like that. So I was wrong, and they were right, you know, and I'm glad that I did do it. But, I mean, the versions are not the same at all, you know. He's got this kind of, you know, really on top of the beat all the time. His singing is, like, real aggressive, and our thing has this real kind of lazy groove to it, which is nice. I like his version too, but they're different. So no, I mean, I never tried to copy his version.
Now,
I liked it, but
does the record company start treating you different when you have a hit? The song Someway was a hit. Does the record company look at you differently, or are you still just an artist that they're saying, you know, you're only as good as your last song?
No, we always had a lot of trouble. You know, my relationship with them was really troubled from the start. And, well, what I didn't understand was, and I got told this later on, you know, it was explained to me, but it was like way, way after the fact, but like the East Coast office of Warner Brothers was like the poor cousin to the West Coast, you know, like the real energy center of the company was in Burbank. And they, you know, like they just sort of like the people in Burbank had a kind of an attitude about the New York office. And right when I like at my A&R person's funeral is where I heard about this. It's so sad that she's not around. I wish she was still walking the earth. Her name was Karen Berg, and she was a friend, you know, as well as somebody that I worked with. But at her funeral, you know, a couple of different people whispered in my ear and said, well, you know, they never would give us money to promote our records, and blah, blah, blah. I've had, like, I don't know, a dozen different mea culpas over the years from people that worked at Warner Brothers when my first album was out. It was just kind of funny to me now, but anyway, yeah, it was weird, right? It was problematic right from the start. And my other offer that I had was for more money, and that was with RCA. And so, I mean, I don't know if things would have gone better with them or if it would have gone differently. I kind of think maybe they would have, because they were breaking a lot of singles. RCA was with Hall & Oates, and you know, I think they would have just really gone for it more than Warner Brothers did. That still doesn't mean that it would have gone well. I have no idea. You know, you never know what you can only speculate about what might have happened. But anyway, that's how it went. It was what it is. It got off to a weird start, and then it got worse.
Now, as an artist, how do you handle that? Like, you know, it's your music. You're busting your ass. I'm sure you're going on the road, and you don't have the support always of the record company. How do you keep your chin up, per se, when that's going through? And you know, it's like, you know, it's got to be irking you, but you have to keep a smile on your face, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. You know, I mean, I just wasn't going to let it beat me, and so I just kept going no matter what. I just blocked the unpleasant stuff out of my mind and kept going. I mean, it still was, it was bad, you know, that I had to work at a disadvantage like that. But anyway, that's just how I just had to do it that way. I just had to keep trying. And fortunately, or unfortunately, unfortunately, I guess, depending on how you want to look at it. But like I said, my A&R person in New York was somebody that, you know, I liked her, and she just, like, insisted that you know, she just, like, wouldn't let go of it. Even after my deal was over, I'd done my 5 albums for them and was ready to bolt out the door, but she still wanted me to stay. And, you know, that was really sweet. But anyhow, like I said, it just started the way it started, and then I just kind of kept going down and down and down. But here I am.
Now, you've been in movies. How did you end up in Peggy Sue Got Married, and how did you end up with the Bamba, and what was that experience for you? Because, you know, you've been on stage already as Jon Lennon, but now, I mean, how did they come approach you? How does it happen when you're a musician is in a movie?
Oh, well, with Peggy Sue Got Married, the script writer was a fan of my records. And he wrote us into the script, you know, like he just put us in there, like they're going to be in the movie, you know, which was pretty great. And then, you know, prior to that, though, like right away, I did have lots of good luck with songs getting placed in movies. You know, like that I think is what's given the stuff the longevity that it's had. For sure, that's what did it. But anyway, so the movies, you know, that right away that was kind of good to me. And I will say this, Warner Brothers, they tried to press that, you know, like I sang a song on the soundtrack to Superman 3, believe it or not. And that was the first one in the series that was a flop. There was Superman, the first Superman movie with Christopher Reeve, and then there was Superman 2, and they were both huge. And then the third one, I think that was the one that had Richard Pryor in it. I'm not sure what the deal was, but anyway, I never even saw the movie. But they got me on the soundtrack, and I sang a song that was written by Giorgio Moroder, and the track was produced by him. And I remember this still. I did my second album with Steve Lillywhite, and then on the last night of the last session, we had to finish that night no matter what, because he was leaving and I was leaving. And so I finished that session, and then I just went straight to the airport out to Los Angeles to record this song for Superman 3, and it was a song called Rock On, which was not terribly great, you know, but anyway, so I was doing movies. I was involved with movies right away, which is cool. And then, so Peggy Sue Got Married, and then shortly thereafter, the people from La Bamba came after me because, I'd always gotten this thing in the reviews and articles and stuff, you know, where I would be compared to Buddy Holly. I was the Buddy Holly guy, right? So La Bamba, you know, they needed the Buddy Holly in the movie, and I got the tap on the shoulder for that one.
So you're doing the movies and you're doing music for movies. When you would do music for movies, well, you rock or whatever it was called that you didn't write. If you write a song for a movie, do they ask you, okay, here's the scene, here's what we want, or how does that go?
Well, I haven't done that very many times where I wrote an original song for a movie. Usually when I've had something in a movie, almost all the time, it's just been something from a record of mine, you know, like a music supervisor hears it, or they like that song and it goes in the movie. But let me see. Now, first time I wrote a song for a movie, it was this little kind of low-budget movie called Pants on Fire, which I don't think has ever been released in the U.S. I wrote a song for that one called Television Light. I still play that song. Then the next time after that I wrote an original song for a movie, it was when I co-wrote one of the Gin Blossoms hit singles for a movie called Empire Records. And they already had the gig. Like, they were going to, you know, because they just had a huge hit album. So they were asked by the filmmakers to come up with a track. So Jesse, the guitar player, I hadn't met him, but he sought me out, like called me up, and said, well, you know, I want you to help me write this song. Help us write this song. So that just landed in a huge song, you know, right out of the box. So there was that, and then jumping ahead a few years, and I got asked to write the theme song, or write songs, I should say, for Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. And I wrote 4 or 5 songs for that thing, but the only one of mine that got in the movie was the theme song. And that was good, because, you know, the theme song was like, it was publicized, and, you know, they hooked up a Grammy nomination for it, and I mean, it was a good song and everything like that, but, you know, it was a big Hollywood production, expensive movie, and but those are the only times I've written original songs for movies. The rest of the time, if I have something in a movie, well, of course I sang a Buddy Holly song for Bamba, didn't I? Oh, it's just so many of them. It all blurs in my mind.
I could imagine. Now, how do you? You've written so many songs. How has your writing changed over the years, or do you pretty much still stay to what you started at in the early days?
Well, the way it's changed lately is I don't do it anymore. But you know, I think I keep making a New Year's resolution to get back to it. But anyway, yeah, the way I do it actually is the way I always have done it, which is to start by figuring out what the drums are going to do. What's the beat? That's the first thing I do. And then I just kind of build it up from there. So yeah, I do it the same way now that I did when I started.
How about your lyrical content? Has that developed as your life has changed and you've gotten older?
Yeah, sure. But it's just a matter of, you know, I'm not a lyric writer. I'm not like a natural writer, you know. I'm a guitar player, and I write songs so I can make records. That's the only reason I ever wrote songs. And so I would have something to record. And like I said, I start with the drums, and then I write the music first, and then I got to fill a blank page, which is the part that doesn't come easily. But I get it done, and you know, I like some of the. Sometimes I'm self-critical about my lyrics, but I mean, you know, I'm okay. I'm pretty good at it. And then lately, I've been working with a co-writer on lyrics. I write lyrics with this guy Dan Byrne, who has a real facility with it, and is really a smart person and really great writer. And so we get together and write the lyrics now. I like it better that way. I wish that I had found him a long time ago.
Now, who's in the trio when you go out and play now? Like with this upcoming dates, when you're not playing the Smithereens, who's in the trio, and how'd you find them?
Well, I just kind of have like a talent pool, you know. Like there's just like 8 or 10 guys that I just see. You know, I see who's around. These are guys that know my stuff that I've played with before. But lately, it's been Jared Michael Nickerson at bass, and Dan Hickey on drums. And I've been playing with them for the last couple of years, and it's a really great trio. These guys really put a lot of feeling into it, and we play great together. So that's who it is these days.
Now, do you play all of your own songs, or do you play other people's songs, or how does it work? Or do you play some of these other guys if they have songs? How does it work what you play?
Yeah, we just play my stuff. I mean, we do Crying, Waiting, Hoping, because that's in the Bamba. People like to hear that, and I love to play. And we do this one called 2541, and we recorded it about 20 years ago. It's a great song by Grant Hart. And, but that's about it as far as cover tunes go for the trio thing. The rest of it is my tunes. It's great, because I haven't played my stuff that much since June, I'm looking forward to doing it. I've just been playing with the Smithereens lately.
Now, how do you have such a big catalog? How do you figure out what you're going to play? And then there are certain songs that people expect you to play and you're tired of playing. How does it work when you've been around, you've had a successful career, you have a great catalog of songs, but when you play live, you want to keep everyone happy, but then people always get pissed off. Like, oh, he didn't play that. You know, maybe the most obscure song ever, but people are like, oh, he didn't play that. How do you put your set list together?
Well, I never have done like a predominantly oldies show, except when I did some 30th anniversary shows for my first album. That was back in 2011. But you know, I mean, I always play like a lot of the most recent stuff, and then I think it's well balanced. You know, I play some of the earliest ones, and then some of the most recent ones, and then I just kind of fill in the middle. But I don't know. I just really at this point in time, there are only about 35 or 40 of them that I've continually played over the years, and a lot of them I don't remember anymore, which is strange because I used to have a really sharp memory. You know, like I just, but I don't anymore. I hate that. But anyhow, so I guess that's the first thing is I have to play the ones that I remember. You know.
It must be tough. It must be tough. Yeah, I mean, like I know you're playing Randy Now's Man Cave, and I saw Graham Parker there, and he was like, I played some of these songs so many times, and they were from years ago that you just forget them, and I think it's normal because the normal person, you know, it's not a performer, doesn't need to remember 40 songs or 50 songs. You know, we might have to remember names of someone we knew in 5th grade, but it must be hard for your memory because you have to remember so much stuff.
I know. I mean, if I'm playing a show where it's just me, then I do that sometimes. I go out and play sometimes just by myself. You know, I do the lone troubadour thing, and I play solo. In that situation, I can play requests, and you know. But if somebody asks for a song that I don't want to play, then I lie and say that I don't remember it. But just as often as that, I really don't remember it. You know, like I'm not lying anymore. So, but when I'm with the band, you know, I got to just play the ones that the guys know, whichever ones we've learned for the gigs. So that's kind of how that works.
Now I'm looking at your website. It's people's website's marshallcrenshaw.com. It's a great website, and you have something though from an older schedule from the Bottle Rockets. Who are the Bottle Rockets?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's important. The Bottle Rockets, great rock band, and they've been around for a long time. They've been around since the '90s. But as far as I know, they started making records sometime early '90s, I think. And I'm a fan of their band, you know. Back when they started out, they had this song called $1,000 Car. And it was really like, it's a great song, you know. The problem with the song is it has a 4-letter word in the lyrics. And if it hadn't been for that, you know, it would have been huge. But anyway, it's a great, people love that song, but loved it right out of the box. And they've just, you know, they've made a lot of great records over the years. Still do it. They're just one of those bands that, like me, you know, they just keep marching on, you know, and creating new music. And it's for a cult audience mostly, but you know, whatever it takes, you know, just keep going. And about 2011, I started playing with them, touring with them. Because we had the same agent right at that moment, and he cooked up the idea. So we went out and played some shows, and just people loved it immediately, and it was great for me because they're just a great rock and roll band. So we do a thing where they play a set, and then I come out with them, and we play a set of my stuff. And every year, ever since 2011, we go out and we do about maybe a dozen in one year, and then maybe 20 or 30 in the next year. But we always do some tour dates every year, and it's great. I've got a live CD coming out in March and a lot of the tunes on it are me and them. So if you happen to get a chance to grab a copy of that, you can hear what we sound like, or you can come to one of our gigs. But anyway, yeah, the Bottle Rockets. If you don't know their stuff already, look into it.
Now, do you have dates planned with them for later this year, or is it something that you guys just play it by ear, seeing what your schedules are like?
Well, it usually happens in the first half of the year. You know, like we used to go on the road in January and February, and we're not doing that anymore. But anyway, yeah, it's pretty much always in the first half of a given year. But we haven't missed a year since 2011. Every single year we've gone out and played shows together.
Now, with your tour, the trio, you seem to play a lot in the New Jersey, and I'm in New Jersey, right outside Philadelphia. You seem to play a lot in that area. Is that something because you just don't like to travel, or is it just something you're very more popular there, or because you have a lot in New York, DC? You all have things that they're 4 hours tops from New York. Is that just a personal preference?
Well, I mean, I mostly have played in the Northeast over the years, the northeastern United States. But I go out. I mean, I don't go everywhere, but I just kind of go where I can go. Like Chicago has always been a really great town for me. Southern California is good for me now. Texas, but the Northeast is the bedrock of it, and I would say New Jersey. I'd say probably 30% of the gigs I've done, Jersey. So that's one of the places that's a real stronghold. New Jersey and New York, Boston. Like that corridor between Boston and Washington D.C. has always been really strong for me.
Now you said you're working with a guy who writes lyrics, helps you write lyrics. You guys writing together. Do you expect to put out a new album in the near future?
Well, I've got a thing that's coming out, actually. I did 5 albums for this label called Razor and Tie during 1994 till 2001. And I had a good lawyer when I did the contract with them, and I got all the masters back just a year or so ago. And then I made a licensing deal recently to re-release the albums that I did for Razor and Tie. And one of the hooks in the whole thing is that the albums were never out on vinyl before, so they're going to be on vinyl, but also on all the digital platforms too. But I thought, just to make it more interesting for myself and for everybody, that I would do a single with each album, a brand new single with 2 new tracks. And if you buy the vinyl album, then you get a physical 45 with the album, with 2 new things on it. And that the first one's coming out in January 15th. And the name of the album that we're going to release is called Lyrical Science. I did it for Razor and Tie back in 1996, right in the middle of the Gin Blossoms thing. And it's coming out, and it's remastered, and it's got new artwork, and it sounds really great. It's a great rock album, and then it's got these 2 new tracks with it. So so the answer is yes. I'm doing some new stuff again.
Now you said it's coming out on vinyl. Now, as an artist and as someone who's made albums, and you've had CDs and you've had cassettes, did you miss? And I'm glad vinyl's making a comeback. But as an artist, did you miss when vinyl sort of disappeared?
Oh boy. Well, I mean, for me, it never did really, because I always bought 45s until they stopped making them, I think. And but then when CDs came along, I got on board with those. But I used to buy cassettes too. And they sound terrible, but I mean they sound much worse than MP3s. But anyway, and I'm not sure if I missed vinyl or not. No, I mean, like I said, I never got rid of my records, and now that they're popular again, that's what I buy if I buy a record. Although I still get stuff online too. I buy anything
Yeah.
as long as it's got music. I actually have 78s, and I haven't bought any of those in a while. But I don't have any wax cylinders. I don't have any Thomas Edison wax cylinders, but I have like everything else.
Well, I want to thank you for taking time to talk to me. Your tour's coming up. Are you getting excited? I mean, do you when you play a Smithereens show and then you turn around and you play your own show? Is it hard to switch like that? Because I know you're playing. You're playing at the Grammy. You played that. You did that in October. You played on a Thursday night with the Smithereens, and you played a Saturday night by yourself. Is that hard to do? Is that hard to change in gear?
No, it's cool. It's good too because the Smithereens play about 10 times louder than I do. So, like on the second night, I'll be giving my ears a bit of a rest. No, it's great. I love doing the stuff that I'm doing now. It's no complaints from me,
Great. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time. People, go to MarshallCrenshaw.com. Check out his website. Check out his music. When his new album comes out, and you go buy it, okay? So go to MarshallCrenshaw.com. People, go to my website, CooperTalk.net. I have over 750 episodes. Email me, Cooper at CooperTalk.net. Twitter at CooperTalk. Instagram, CooperTalk1. So I'm Steve Cooper. I'm only as hip as my guest. Don't forget, drink your water, eat your vegetables, take your vitamins, and I'll talk to you guys next time.